Pump it up, pump it up.
Trae.
Come on, come on.
With Trae.
Pump it up, pump it up.
It's the day with Trae.
This is the day to gain inspiration, to make a positive change in the nation. We're inviting you to partake in conversation, to raise your vibration. It's the day that we will all celebrate all of our peeps that make this thing elevate. Watch the negative fade away, cause it's the day with Trae.
Well, Grand Rising, everyone. Welcome to the Day with Trae. I'm your host, Trae Holiday. I get to welcome you to a amazing Thursday, y'all. I'm really excited because, you know, when we got folks in here that can give us some insight on what's going down, we love to be able to share that insight with all of you. And my guest today is Kevin Schilling, the mayor of the city of Burien. We're going to be talking about all the work they're doing around homelessness, housing, and public safety. So I'm really excited that he's here to join me. But you know, it's the top of the show, y'all. This is where you join me. Go ahead and share this show with folks who you feel could benefit from our daily dose of dopeness we work to give you here on the Day with Trae. You know, if you can't watch us, we always have you covered. You can listen to us as well anywhere you find your favorite podcast. Just search Converge Media Network in the Day with Trae. You'll find us on whichever platform is your favorite. Now, before I get into it with the Mayor of Burien here, I want to get into it with y'all, because let me say that there is something around engagement. Now, we talk about this all the time. Is it civic engagement, community engagement, engagement in, you know, certain institutions in my community? It's all of that and then some. The ways that you can be engaged are vast. Picking a lane and being able to make a mark in that lane is where you really get to make the most contribution. Now, I'm not saying you can't sprinkle yourself around. You definitely can, but there's something really special about making an impact in a direct way. And that is something that is felt by so many more people. So when you pick your lane, when you're out there like, oh, I don't know, I'm always telling folks to do what resonates with you already. You will find that not only do you love it because you have a genuine interest in it, but that genuine interest resonates with those that you are helping, serving, or volunteering for. So honestly, I tell you, no matter if it's your job, volunteer service, mentorship, you know, civic engagement, helping to educate your neighbors on different things that may matter to them, like, do we need new light poles up in our neighborhood? It could be something as simple as that. But the truth is that your collective knowledge, bringing it into something that's bigger than you, that is what helps us have better neighborhoods, better cities, more stronger communities, more engaged communities. So I keep on saying this because I realize that over the course of my lifetime, some of this stuff just happened, right? My grandmother had an amazing beauty salon back in the day, and she was known as the Jerry Curl Queen in the 80s. And let me tell you, there was something that I didn't realize I was picking up in that space. When people were coming there to get their hair done, they were also talking about, okay, well, what should we know? Who should we be voting for? What new bill should we be passing? Wait a minute, tell me a little bit more about what's going on with that property down the street. I mean, there was all of these conversations that were happening as I just so happened to be there after school hours, right? I'd go right to my grandma's beauty salon right there on Union in the historic neighborhood of the Central District. And I would be able to absorb all of these amazing conversations that were happening around me. And I didn't realize then, it wasn't until I was an adult that I really reflected on this and understood the impact that had on me, to want to be engaged, to want to learn more, to want to tap in. You know, people were coming with papers in hand, talking about what was important to them based on different articles that were written. And there was so much that was going on. It wasn't always just about gossip and, oh, girl, let me tell you about this neighbor over here or what happened with my family. There was also some real gems hidden in these amazing spaces. And I got to see that and experience that. So I recognize that there are wide amounts of ways for you to be engaged. And through osmosis, as a young girl, I got to see how much my grandmother and my mother and all the folks who came through the shop were engaged in all of these ways. Now, they didn't have to be the leaders of protests or of some major organizations or institutions. Their engagement came through being in community with one another, sharing ideas, forms of thought, reflecting the sign of the times that they were living in ways that allowed other people to contribute. And for me, I realized, man, that's what it was really about, to be engaged, right? That no matter where you are, maybe it's the beauty salon, the barbershop, maybe it's your church or school or other, institution that you were attending or contributing to. But the fact is that these genuine conversations that were happening were ways that people were able to connect with one another. And the connection is what's so beautiful and what resonated with me. So be a part of some type of connection out here. No matter what it looks like, I'm sure there's somebody who's going to benefit. Well, after this short break, up next, we got Kevin Schilling in the building, the mayor of Burien. We're going to be learning all about what they're doing in that city right after this short break. Stay tuned. You're watching The Day with Trae.
Talks is the hottest streaming show on TV. Catch all the truths about pop culture to politics and today's biggest
Why
stars.
tiptoe through life?
Monday through Friday, live at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, and again at 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific on Fox Soul.
I was someone that the community gave up on. If I didn't have access to naloxone, I don't think I'd be sitting here today. Harm reduction services gave me all the tools and medications necessary to turn my life around. When we fully utilize these resources for needle exchanges, proper medical care, peer support, shelter, I, like many other people out there, we found a way to recover.
Find harm reduction resources at supportaddictionrecovery.com.
In Seattle, it's more than just coffee. It's community. At the station, we brew more than just your favorite cup. We brew connection. From Beacon Hill to Columbia City, we're a space for artists, activists, and everyone in between. A place to gather, create, and simply be. Whether you need a quiet place to work, a lively spot to meet friends, or just a moment to unwind, find your place at the station. More than coffee, it's home. Visit us in Beacon Hill or Columbia City. The station, where community happens.
Welcome back, y'all, to The Day with Trae. I'm your host, Trae Holiday. Joining me right now is Kevin Schilling. Hi.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm doing great today. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so, as the mayor of Burien, I got to talk about the beginnings. What got you into politics?
It's this crazy idea that you could serve your community and help make things better. So my dad's from Burien. His dad grew up around Burien. I'm fourth generation Washingtonian. And when you grow up in a community and you see that you can be involved and you can get involved and you can help make a positive impact, that's kind of enough. That's just kind of the spark you need. And so I got out of grad school and I came home and I started teaching middle school, but I wanted a little bit something more. I wanted to be more involved. And I wanted younger people to have a seat at the table and a younger voice to be involved in local decision making. And that was really it. It was just this idea that I think I can be someone who could be involved and make decisions and reflect what the community was looking for. And then going out there and sort of proving it, right? Like you have to campaign. I was 25 years old when I was first elected to Burien City Council, and I was knocking on doors all day long, and I was just this young kid in the summertime knocking on doors and learning kind of what everyone in the community was looking for and reflecting that. I really wanted to be a part of that decision making. And so that was really it. It's foundationally just, I think I can help make a difference.
It's important too for folks to hear that, because I think oftentimes it's like, oh, is there a lineage of this? And like you come from politics, you grew up in it. But the fact of something as simple as that, I know that maybe I can make a difference. Maybe the ideas that I have by listening to everyone and then being able to represent that is important.
Right, and I come from a working class family. My dad wasn't in politics, his dad wasn't in politics. They were Boeing engineers, for 35 years, each of them. So I just come from it from loving my neighbors and wanting to be involved with them and trying to make the place I grew up a little bit better.
Well, I think it's, this is what sometimes I see missing is, do our representatives reflect what we need in communities? And so I think that's that go-getterism to be like, no, I need to hear from everybody is so important. So now you go from city council to mayor. Tell us a bit about that transition.
Well, that was a crazy transition because right after I got elected, COVID hit. And if you told me while I was running for city council that 3 or 4 months into it, I would be having to respond to the biggest pandemic in 100 years, I just said, you're crazy, that's not happening. And then of course it did. And sort of that being on the front lines of the COVID experience. And even then I said I needed to do a little bit more. So I joined AmeriCorps to deliver emergency meals to low-income families because I wasn't just interested, I didn't want to sit in my apartment all day long. I was, we were all getting a little tireless, like needed to do something. And so I got involved and joined AmeriCorps, delivered emergency meals. And from that, I sort of just started feeling more comfortable saying we need to go this direction. I've just delivered emergency meals. I've just knocked on a bunch of doors. I used to be a grocery store worker, grocery store clerk when I was going to community college full time. We passed hazard pay during COVID for grocery store workers because, as we remember, they were the only ones. Them nurses, teachers were kind of the frontline workers. Were the folks who were going into work every day still. And from that experience, I said, I think I can help move the direction of the city a little bit more. I was getting more involved. I was promoting a little more policy. And as I was moving into that, I just gained the trust of my fellow council members and became mayor from a few years of getting into the nitty gritty and working really hard and pushing the direction of the city.
So tell us a bit about how, your administration as the mayor works with the Burien City Council to make things happen for the residents of Burien.
So we have 7 members of the Burien City Council, and really you want to deliver policy that is agreed upon not just by a majority of folks, but by the whole council. You want to try to get unanimous consent so that everyone's agreed on the movement going forward. Oftentimes that doesn't happen. Sometimes you get 6, 5, or 4, but you really want to try to get to 7. And when we developed our comprehensive plan, which is our foundational framework for where to build housing, getting transit, putting more businesses in, childcare, getting more jobs available, we had unanimous consent of that. Every council member voted in favor of the direction we said we wanted the city to go over the next 20 years. That's awesome. It is so hard to get everybody to agree on the movement going forward, especially when it comes to attracting the things I just listed. Those are hot button, tough issues. But we worked for months to really get down in the nitty gritty to deliver a plan that everybody said, that's the direction I want to get going. So I'm really proud of that. I'm a big fan of what's kind of called the abundance agenda. So we need more of good stuff, and we need to get the things out of the way that stop more of that good stuff from happening. Huge believer in needing the government to work for outcomes, not just for the government's sake, but we're going to keep building distrust in the government if we don't actually deliver on the things that we're saying we want to deliver on, like better, faster, more efficient, cheaper transit, more housing of all levels for everybody to attain more housing, delivering on supporting small businesses and entrepreneurs in the community. That's huge for me. Making sure that workers are protected and can keep gaining more power in their jobs, more wealth, build more wealth in their lives, own homes, have good schools for their kids to go to. That was the direction we all said we want to move forward on. There's councils are kind of like families. They're not going to agree on everything all the time, and certainly that we don't agree on everything. But my goal moving into when I became mayor at the beginning of 2024, I said, I want us to at least all be able to be civil, be able to have positive interactions, positive conversations, because coming out of COVID, it was tough. I mean, when you're all online and then you kind of get into fights and folks are not really restrained because you're just in a little TV box, and then you get back in together and you really want to be civil and create an environment where everybody can feel like they can share their opinion and that they can contribute to what we're doing moving forward. So It's certainly not the easiest thing. We've had our rough patches, but when it's come to the biggest issues, we've done a pretty good job of at least having civil conversations and then getting to a point where a majority of the council agrees to move forward on something.
Well, that's important too, because I mean, we're talking about, the back and forth means less of the time focused on the solution, right? It's like, what do the people need? How do we get to fulfilling those needs is so key. Now, in terms of what y'all are doing with housing, tell us a bit more about how this is shaping up. 'Cause you're talking about, building housing for all levels, which we hear often. What does it look like in practice?
Yeah, that's an awesome question. I want to touch really briefly on how do you determine what people want. And I think just to really quickly say, this is why democracy matters. This is why elections matter. Because people spend an entire year going out, knocking on doors, showing up to events, going on the media, having conversations about what they've been working on, and then understand what to reflect in their communities and understand what people are really wanting. That's why elections matter. And that's why the democratic project is so important, because this is how we hold people accountable. Because if you go on, you say, I want to run for this and I want to be elected for this and I want to be your city representative, then you've got to deliver on the things that you said you're going to do. So that's number one. For housing and what it actually looks like, private developers coordinating with the public's goals so that you can say, we need the economic environment to be one where a developer can make their plan for building a home, building an apartment complex, actually pencil out so that the math makes sense. So their investors come in with their money, they pay an architect to design something that fits the needs, and then they actually build the thing that they're saying they're going to build by paying laborers to build it, by putting the money in to actually connect all the services they need to connect to the structure they're building. But we can't do that unless governments say we're trying to create an environment for that to happen. So what we did was we extended tax incentives, multifamily tax exemptions through the whole city. So we said, we want to build housing and we want y'all to do it, and we really want you to invest in this and build more units faster. So we said, we will make tax exemptions for you in order to get you in there. We'll help you with your permitting timelines. So if there's something we can do a little bit faster, we'll get it done a little bit faster, because the number one thing that stops housing from being built is the timeline it takes to get the permits. Because you're waiting around for 6 months sometimes before a permit's approved. That's unacceptable to me. We want to get housing built now so that rents go down, so that more options become available to people. You need to hire locally. So we incentivize people hiring locally because we want good jobs to be in Burien, in South King County, so that people can live and work where they're doing construction jobs to build more housing for people. So it really is that combination of public and private, where we're the public side saying we're incentivizing this, we're supporting you by reducing permitting timelines, we're supporting you by making sure that you can identify locations. We got our staff working to help people identify locations that they can purchase and build more. And then the private sector says, we really want to invest in the city of Burien. Now that's all market rate. Where the whole region is struggling is on affordable housing. Yeah. And that takes government investment to say, we're going to work with you if you're willing to form this partnership where we'll do all that stuff for you if a certain percentage of your units are affordable. Yeah. And we've done that a couple times in Burien, where we've said, we're willing to work with you on those things we just said, multifamily tax exemption, permitting timelines, getting staff to help you out, if you're willing to make a certain number of your units affordable. And they know it. Developers know that we need affordable housing as well as market rate. We need an all of the above strategy. And so that's kind of the whole landscape of when it comes to building housing that we need to really focus on.
Well, every time we talk about housing, I think homelessness is like a skip away, right? And so tell us a bit about how this is maybe the strategy you're taking is also reflective in the reduction of homelessness in Burien.
Well, housing first and foremost. Mm-hmm. If you're paying rent, if you're owning a home, that's amazing. There are so many people who are one paycheck away from not being able to do that, though. This is a tough time. When rent's expensive, groceries expensive, everything's expensive. What we need to do moving forward and what we need to focus on is not just that all of the above approach, but what we did during COVID that really was successful is if you're someone that is in a place that the rent's going up or you're struggling a little bit, what we did during COVID that worked phenomenally was rental assistance. And we said, we've got government assistance for you if you're teetering on the brink of having a issue paying rent or having an issue with your mortgage. Going back to that tenant assistance, that rental assistance, to really keep people housed. Another one is going after predatory rent increasers, so people who are doing it on a predatory basis. I don't think anyone who's supporting keeping those people in business. They're breaking the law, they're taking advantage of their tenants. That's not good, and we need the government to really be harsher on those folks who are doing predatory rent increases, for sure. The other part about it when we talk about homelessness is that people need to make sure we need to make sure that we're in an environment where more jobs are being created and wages are going up so that we can build wealth, number one. The second big element of it that we're seeing in regards to homelessness is tackling the drug addiction and mental health issues. We are not building enough mental health, psychiatric, and drug assistance facilities in this state, in the county. We really need our state legislature, county folks to be focused on delivering on more beds and more services for folks who are addicted to drugs, who have a mental health situation, or who really need some psychiatric help. Because the people we've seen on the streets in Burien have had one of those three issues, which is why we were one of the first cities, and this is kind of where I would like to see the region kind of focus on investing in co-responder models. So you're not just a police officer going out and saying, we're going to arrest you, but you have a mental health professional going out with a police officer to see the situation, help with the person going through a drug addiction, mental health, psychiatric issue. So it's not an arrest. We don't want to make jail the solution for someone on the street having a mental health or drug issue. But we do want to get them help. We do want to get them into treatment. That's my compassionate approach. I think my compassion for this stems from the fact that you're not helping anybody if you're just letting them stay on the street, having a drug problem, having a mental health problem. That's not compassionate to me. We really need to get people focused on treatment and getting the help that they need. We paired that co-responder model of police mental health partner with a social service outreach person. So the mental health professional gets on the call to the outreach person and says, I've got someone for you. Where can you take them? And the outreach person says, I know a detox center over here, or I know an addiction center over here, or a rehab center over here, and we'll coordinate to get them that help right then and there. Because the problem is, if you see someone who's going through a drug addiction issue or a mental health crisis, and you say, we'll get back to you, that's when the problems happen. Because you might not be able to find them again. That might be their last day. And what we're doing is we're working on saving lives. That's what matters.
Yeah, I mean, you're right, because that response time is very critical here when we're talking about folks who are in need of those particular kinds of services. And we're in this time where I see this too, because I know, King County Councilmember Gurmai Zahala has been heading this effort to open up these, mental health institutions in our community. And we see the need across the county. And particularly, I'm really appreciating a focus on South King County as well. So I think that's very important and key, because sometimes Seattle gets all of this spotlight, and it's like there's all of these other cities that are part of the county that are dealing with a very similar issue, right? And so I appreciate you sharing that approach. Now, we've seen maybe some controversy, right? I want you to be able to talk a bit about how Burien has been, maybe some court cases, these other things, those are real things too. Talk more a little bit about how y'all are dealing with that.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, we were in a situation where we had lots of tent encampments on the street. We were in the middle of the city. We had a tent encampment that had 120 people that weren't getting services, that weren't getting help. And so we paired our service outreach and our mental health outreach with enforcing the law. And I think that is an important part here. If we don't have a law enforcement element that can say, we need to nudge you into accepting treatment, people are not going to accept treatment. And that's my biggest concern, is we've seen a scenario in a lot of big cities around the country, especially Seattle, especially King County, where folks just say, I don't want to take that service, or I don't want to do that. But but then they end up continuing on the path of staying addicted or having no assistance for their mental health concern. So in the city of Burien, we passed a law that said there's a regulation around being in a tent, and there's a regulation around putting a tent up during the day, because we were seeing serious negative issues. We were seeing drug overdoses every week. We were seeing businesses being broken into. We were seeing people walking up and down the street having serious mental health concerns. And as a community, as a city council, we all kind of agreed we need to do something about that. But we're also a less resourced city. We didn't have a whole lot of money. We could only do so much with the money we had to respond to the mental health and outreach services. So we took a lot of money, from our ARPA money, which is the federal government during COVID, every city got some money. We put a lot of money into service outreach. We put a lot of money into homelessness response. We worked with the county to get money for Mary's Place, to get more support for them to build a bigger campus. But we also said we need to be able to enforce the law. And we need to be able to say, allowing tent encampments anywhere at any time is not a positive solution to get people the help that they need. So we ultimately won our case. The regional courts ultimately said Burien is allowed to have a law, and we're not the only city that has this. I mean, Bellevue, SeaTac, Kent, Auburn, Renton, surrounding communities have these laws to help get people directed towards outreach and services, because we were seeing overdoses and we were seeing mental health crises. And I want people to be in treatment over being in tents. And I want to make sure that the public space is safe for everybody. And that requires that combination of enforcing law and offering services.
Well, I can see why people are like, whoa, right? Because we have seen a lot of different things in terms of sweeps and what has that done for the issue at hand. And I think this is why having institutions in our communities, in our cities, that really are, there to support these folks and do it in a human-centric way is so vital. And that's key. Totally.
And we approved a 75-bed permanent supportive housing complex in the city of Burien, run by the Downtown Emergency Service Center. So we've put in 75 beds for permanent supportive housing. We have an emergency room where we hear from the hospital all the time that they see folks who are struggling with this, and then oftentimes they can't go anywhere, so they get let back out and they don't get the help that they need. But you're absolutely right. It's this human-centric approach, and that was my concern. I wanted to actually get people off the street into services, because we were seeing people dying of overdoses, and we were seeing people struggling with the mental health and psychiatric issues.
So when you talk about partnering with police, are we talking about if they refuse treatment, what happens to them then? Tell us a little bit more.
Yeah, and that's kind of the gray area with these laws, not just in King County, but kind of around the country, because the Supreme Court and courts have said cities are able to have laws that say we can enforce a law that says no tents, no tent encampments, that you have to either accept services or kind of go somewhere else, because we're offering services. It's a services first approach. But there's no other law that says you're required to take those services. So you can say no and go somewhere else. We do have involuntary treatment laws. Those are tough to pin down, and you have to have certain requirements in order to have someone admitted under involuntary treatment. That's really hard. It's really hard to get to that level, and we don't have a whole lot of support for that yet. I think we need to build up support for that, for people who are really struggling with mental health issues. But we don't arrest people who say no. We don't arrest people who are having trouble. The law is there in order to say you're not allowed to do that. We're offering you a service, but we need to be able to have cities to enforce that law, to nudge people into accepting the services. The unfortunate thing about this is that you can say no to a service because you have an individual right, you have an individual liberty to say no. But in that gray area, I guess a little bit, the answer is you either say yes or you can't have a tent up in the middle of a city. And like I said, other communities do this too, and we're not the only one. We need to have more investment into treatment so that it's not a last resort and it's not a minimal option. Because right now we need to expand those services where people are more willing to say yes. Because my concern is that they're just willing to say no. And we want them to say yes. We want them to get the help that they need.
Yeah, so there's ways to start innovating in terms of, this approach. And I'm glad that you were here to tell us a bit more about how Burien is doing this. Because I'm always thinking, okay, when things work well, how do other cities pick up, okay, maybe this is different or it's an innovative approach, but we see through data or whatever else that there are certain elements of this that are really working that could work in this city over here or this city over here.
Right.
And I think being able to share best practices, but also those hard lessons learned throughout the course of trying to embed something like this in a city really bodes well for everyone else. Even the citizens of all of our cities, because, some of this is like, we need to understand what's going on too, so that it's not like separate from us, but again, it's reflective of meeting the needs of those when you're banging on doors and asking folks what they need. So I just got to thank you for coming on. And of course, if people are wanting to follow more about how y'all are shaping up as a city, look right there, let them know how they stay tapped in.
One way, thanks a lot, I love that. One way to stay tapped in is to continue to just follow progress from the City of Burien's website. That's one way to do it. You can always watch City of Burien council meetings on Monday nights. We do 2 meetings a month. That's one way to stay in touch. Also online, every city council member has a phone number and email to ask questions of them to see what's going on. But I want to just thank you and the team at Converge for letting me come on and talk about these big issues. These are huge issues, and we all need to work together because I think everyone wants to make sure people have a choice, have an option to improve their life, have a positive way of getting better, and so that everyone can feel safe and have the resources they need in their lives in King County.
Right on. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here. Wow, y'all, we're learning and we are always wanting to share that learning with you all. Of course, I'll wrap all this learning up right after this short break. Stay tuned. You're watching The Day with Trae.
Listen up, Puget Sound.
This is a call to my fellow Black business owners.
It's your girl, Vasa Gordon.
It's your boy, Eric Calligraphy, and I know times are tough out here.
Especially for our restaurants, dude. I already know you're feeling the weight.
But let me be clear. We're not going to stand by and watch our community struggle.
Here at Back to Basics and Converge Media, we know Black businesses are the heartbeat of our community.
We bring the culture, the flavor, and the soul, and we need you to keep on thriving.
We need you. So that's why we're opening our platforms to you. Whether it's telling your story, shining a light on your challenges, grabbing resources for you to know about. Dude, we even want to help bring more customers through your doors.
Man, we got you. Are you a restaurant owner trying to keep your lights on? A new business fighting to make your mark? Whatever your story, we want to hear it and help.
In order to make that happen, we need for you to head on over to whereweconverge.com/support Black business and let us know what's happening. Let Back to Basa and Converge Media amplify your voice and help drive traffic to your business.
Man, don't wait. Converge Media is here to uplift Black business in the Puget Sound. So man, make sure you visit whereweconverge.com/support Black business and let's rise together.
Empowering the community one connection at a time. ConnectWA is your partner in finding the support you need. Download the app today and experience the difference that a connected community can make. Learn more at eec-wa.org/connectwa-app.
Getting the scholarship really changed the conversation. It went from, I can do school in my free time and make it work, to I could only focus on school and I could be the best I can be every single day. I can soak up everything. I can read before class and make sure I'm not just learning enough to pass a test. Like I could really pour all my time into school. That's what having a Seattle College Foundation Scholarship did for me.
Africatown Plaza is our latest affordable housing development project. It's 126 units of affordable housing over community commercial space.
It's the first time in my career, and I've been doing this for 10 years, that I was able to design for people who look like me.
Africatown Plaza is a beacon of hope.
Africatown Plaza is a love letter to the community.
Welcome back, y'all, to the Day with Trae. I'm your host, Trae Holiday. I want to thank Kevin Schilling, Mayor of Burien, for joining me today. It was insightful to hear how the city of Burien is taking some real needed steps to make sure that their community is being cared for. And it was a reminder of me that it encourages all of us to stay engaged in our civic duties, right? Whatever city you live in, there is always a need for your collective voice to help drive the change that your city needs, but also reflects the needs of you in your community. If you never tell anybody, how they gonna know? So let's make sure that we're holding our elected officials accountable to the things that they say during their campaign trail, that it really is about representing us as the people. And the more of us who are doing that, giving our voice to the things that our cities need, ensuring that we are informed as voters to understand what type of ways our cities are shaping up to care for all of us. It's important that we stay engaged, y'all. So I'm grateful that y'all got to be on this journey with me in this episode to learn a bit more about how Burien is shaping up in that way. And if you are someone who lives outside of that city or whatever city you live in, make sure you take this as an opportunity to say, wait a minute, what am I doing to be informed? What am I doing to stay engaged? How am I ensuring that my children and my grandchildren and my elderly in my life are being cared for as well as myself? If you're not asking that question, I'm encouraging you right now to do so, because all of our elected officials need to hear from us regarding what we see those needs being in our communities. I want y'all to be inspired by this and find those ways to ensure that your elected officials are hearing from you. Of course, I get to wrap up the week with y'all tomorrow. And until then, y'all, at 11 a.m., peace.
Converge Media produces culturally relevant content for Black and urban audiences. Our coverage is raw, transparent, and objective, praised by community leaders, government officials, and residents. Support Converge Media today via Venmo, Cash App, or PayPal at Converge Media.